Torah guardian, speaking the absolute truth. Torah nation.
Shalom, 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 or should I say Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Yashar'el and Yahuah, grafted in Gentiles into the body of Hamashiach. You who are in this witness, you who have been the elect of Yahuah, of the nation of Yashar'el, and of the Gentiles whom Yahuah has elected and chosen.
I made a promise, can't nobody take it. I chose to put you above all the nations. Out of your grace, I chose
you are those that Yahuah knows.
Come get protected while they going crazy. Israel my firstborn.
Listening to none other than Hezekiah. Song is entitled Amos, chapter 3, verses 1 and 2.
Go read the testimonies for your memory. I took them promise, but you wasn't hearing me.
Yahuah has identified you as his own.
I'm the one got you from all of your enemies. Who you know open the sea. The water was bitter, but I made it sweet. Case you ain't know how to swim.
He's going to judge everybody outside of this witness.
You married to me. I just want you to be all I called you to be. They called you niggas, but I made you priests.
Those who are of Hebraic descent and those that are of the other nation that are in this witness. There are some in Yashar'el that want to say that the renewed covenant is a spawn of Constantine or a spawn of Christianity. But Yahushua's inviting the book. They want to say that this whole idea, this concept of a virgin birth, right? It's not a new concept. They want to suggest that it was taken, right, and made a Hebraic concept. Yahuah HaMashiach, born of a virgin, right, was a concept that was generated out of paganism. They want you to believe that this whole idea of a renewed covenant it's just the original Torah.
Created everything, but I called you my own.
Listen, man of Yah, woman of Yah, grafted in Gentiles, don't be deceived. Don't be deceived. Don't be deceived. Don't be deceived. You got these Hebrews that are deceived. Right? They don't understand because it takes an emunah in the witness of Yahuah HaMashiach in order to receive a cleansing of your filthiness that you have to do through an atonement, right? They want, and in order to receive this Yeshua that Yahuah has for us, we have to come through Hamashiach. We have to receive the atonement, and then we have to receive a Ruach HaKodesh, because without it, we can't be led and guided into all truth. See, they want you believe that somehow you can just turn to you when everything that we have that has to do anything with Hebraic culture and history, we understand that blood is for an atonement, and that in order to be under Yahuah, you had to have an atonement. Adam and Yahuah had to have an atonement. Abel provided an atonement. Noah, Enoch, they all understood atonement. They want you to believe that Yahushua is a fallacy. But Yahuwah spoke of Yahushua's birth from Adam and Yahuah. Hasatan knew.
I sent your enemy. Get out my lane since you wasn't fair. I'm the reason they put you in chains. I'm the reason they switched up your name.
Hasatan understood what it was going to take to sway you. Get you to believe that all these other elves that operate under the same premise, having virgin birth, having a prince, a king, everything that you see that Hasatan has done in this world is diabolical. And the only way you're going to discern that is in this witness. It's not because you understand that you're Hebrew and you E1B1A. You got to understand that points you to Hamashiach. That points you to an atonement that you must have. You must have this atonement. Yahuah, in the name of Yahushua Hamashiach, I pray that you, by your Ruach HaKodesh that I have received in Emunah, that is in my belly, that you said would flow rivers of living water. Yahuah, I pray that by this word, this Ruach HaKodesh, that you would take the reins of my lips and the reins of my tongue and reign. Yahuah, may I not cause anyone to stumble. May I not cause anyone to be turned out of the way. May no one come up lame because of anything I have spoken. But by your Ruach HaKodesh, your word is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our pathway. The entrance of your word gives light. It gives understanding to the simple. A young man's ways, a young woman's ways is cleansed by taking heed to Torah, by keeping Torah. Yahuah, in the name of Yahushua Hamashiach, I pray that every word that I speak be spirit and life. Yahuah, I pray that the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart would be acceptable in thy sight. Yahuah, you are my strength. You are our strength. You're the strength of the nation. In the name of Yahushua Mashiach. You only have I known. Created everything in earth. Listen, I don't own the rights to this music. I don't own the rights to this music. I'm the reason you in the captivity. We made a covenant, you ain't remember me. You broke the covenant, I sent your enemy. Get out my lane since you wasn't fair. I'm the reason they put you in chains. I'm the reason they switched up your name. You who, sir? I'm the reason. I'm the reason. Because you did not want to keep my covenant. You got to understand and try to learn your culture all over again. But listen, don't be like your fathers. You know you the people. Don't be like your fathers. Understand the necessity of this witness. Be born again of the water and the Ruach HaKodesh. Be a witness in the arrest by having his Ruach HaKodesh and his water and his blood. Created everything that I called you my own. That land I gave you, put my name in my home. Yeah, that's my home. Israel. We going in. Yashar'el and Yahuah, listen. You know me already. Yahuah has me with one message and one message alone. He told me to cry aloud, to spare not. He told me to lift up my voice like a shofar. Right? He told me to tell Yashar'el and Yahuah they need to be born again. They need to be born again. They need to be born again of the Ruach HaKodesh, the water and the blood. In obedience, you have to obey what Yahushua said. Now, if you have been tricked and convinced that everything that is in this new renewed covenant is an untruth, then you know what? Look, you're gonna be pounded in the powder, because you there is no atonement for you. 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 There is no high priest for you. There is no place of which he can go into, a designated holies of holies on your reps. There is none. There is none. I don't care if Ashkenaz is building a temple. He's building a temple for his El. You better understand this. Better understand this, bro. Right? You better understand this. Let them people that want to believe that they Kemetic, let them believe they Kemetic. Let them ascribe to Ham. Let them ascribe to Egyptian. The Egyptians. Let them go ahead. Let them go ahead. Let them. But you who have understood and identified and recognized that you are Hebrews, listen, you better go on to the redemption of Yahushua HaMashiach through faith in his blood. You better receive this atonement. You better receive this atonement. Right? You know you're in the volume of the book. You know the Bible is black history. We understand this. This is our history. They didn't want you to know it. They didn't want you. They did not want you to understand it. Right? They wanted to keep it from you. They wanted to hide it. They wanted to change it up. They wanted to do all of the things that they felt like was necessary. Right? In order for you to stay in darkness. See, but Yahuah has a time. And now is that time. Yes, the world is waking up to we being the people, but listen, as the people of Yahuah, you got to be born again. You got to be born again of the water and the Ruach HaKodesh, and it has nothing to do with Jesus. That's a spawn of Christianity. That is not Yahushua HaMashiach. That is not our kinsman redeemer. That's a spawn. That's something that they did in changing the image. You better wake up to who you are. You better wake up to who you are, Yashar'el and Yahuah. And when you do, you better come to your senses. Don't get caught up in this, only Yahuah and no Yahusha. Don't get caught up in that. Don't get caught up in that. Don't get caught up in that. That's exactly what your fathers did. That's what the Pharisees and the Sadducees did. That's what the religious leaders did at the time of Yahushua HaMashiach. You better not do it. Don't go about establishing your own righteousness. Do not go about establishing your own righteousness. You have to come by way of atonement. And the only way that you're going to find an atonement, the only way you are going to gain access to an atonement requires your emunah, your faith in the way, the truth, and the life. The Torah made flesh. You have to receive this witness in emunah. You got to believe that the blood of Yahusha atoned for you. Because see, listen. Even our forefathers, they understood that they had to have blood in order to atone. That's why Yahuah put such emphasis on not shedding innocent blood. You ain't supposed to shed innocent blood. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you just ain't supposed to kill anything arbitrarily just because, I'm going to go hunting and I'm just going to kill something. Right? No. That blood is required. Listen, if you are hunting for consumption, and if that food that you're consuming is clean, meaning it's not an unclean animal, right? Then when you do take its life, you're supposed to drain the blood, and you're supposed to put it in the ground and cover it over with dirt. You're supposed to just shed innocent blood. Yahuah had no pleasure in animals and goats and sacrifices. But he knew that it was necessary in order to cover you, to keep an atonement over you, to set you apart, to make you different from everybody else. Because he picked you out, but he picked you out to be under his atonement, to be under his covering, to be the people that he has chosen. All the rest of these nations weren't under an atonement. All of these other nations weren't under the atonement. Those that are the other nations that wanted to sojourn with Yashar'el and Yahudah. Oh yeah, Yahuah said, yeah, you can be circumcised. And then you can participate in Pesach. You can participate in the atonement. Right? Because you will now be able to receive an inheritance wherever you are. Right? Of the other nations, strangers. You better not let nobody tell you, bro. You better not get caught up into this. You better understand that this witness requires faith and emunah in Yahushua HaMashiach. Right? They're going to try to tell you that it was a bunch of agnostics, right, that produced the Gospels. These mystical, believing in this sorcerous kind of collaboration, right, with the Torah. Like this. They wrote it and fabricated it. You better understand why he's woke. He's waking you up. He's waking you up to come out from among Babylon. Christianity is Babylon. You know, these people believe that this nation, this United States, is a Christian nation. Well, it is. You know, it persecutes and it steals and it murders and it destroys and it hides, but yet it's somehow a righteous nation. I serve this country. Right? I'm a Hebrew. They say in God we trust. But it's not Yahuah. Constantine never, ever, ever established this whole Christianity thing, right? With the idea that he was serving Yahuah. They were sun worshipers. They just took the Torah and the Besorah and collaborated. They corroborated. They combined paganism. Doesn't matter if you're Methodist, Free Methodist, right? AME Methodist, Baptist, First Baptist, Southern Baptist. It doesn't matter if you are Episcopalian. It doesn't matter if you're Church of God in Christ, Church of God by faith. It doesn't matter if you're a church of faith. You are a church of the Steens, or the Copelands, or the Kagans, or the Creflo Dollars. Doesn't matter. It's paganism. It's paganism. They never intended, these founding fathers, these Freemasons, these people never established this nation as a Christian nation. It was a capitalist nation, which goal was to slay, conquer, and divide. That's what they do. They conquer and divide. And they enslaved. This ain't my home. No, see, because I'm Hebrew. I was taken over here. My ancestors was brought over here on slave ships. Right? This is not my home. See, I understand that Yahuah has allowed me to come here, or my ancestors to be here, because of their wickedness. We got over here because of us. We gonna leave here because of us. Because we turned. That's because we recognize that we Hebrews. Because we've turned to the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach. Now Yahushua has to come, Yahuah has to come to rescue his sons and daughters. Because they are now under his atonement. He has an obligation to his atonement, his covenant. Shabbat was given to Yashar'el. They received instructions on how to keep Shabbat. They received instructions on how to keep the Shabbaths. They received instructions on how to do atonement. Right? But it was taken away. What is that? Yahuah says, we're going to look at Jubilees, the 50th chapter. Right? Jubilees, the 50th chapter says, and after this, and this is the last chapter in Jubilees, right? I've been meditating and reading through Jubilees, and Jubilees is his account of the time from Adam to the time of Moshe, and the place in which he is on the mountain, having received the tablets and having been instructed in the days of Jubilees. Right, the years, the times, the seasons, right? Because he had to pass these on to the nation, right? Like he was given instructions on how to keep them, because if any time you miss it, you stop, you turn away from it, you're gonna lose it. Right? And make no mistake about it, we lost it, right? But we have this event of Jubilees, and it culminates with Yahuah, sealing some things with Moshe in reference to Torah, right? In the 50th chapter. He says, and after this Torah, I made known to you the days of the Shabbaths, right? Right? The feast days, the celebrations, right? Right? In the desert of Sinai, which is between Eylim and Ciynai, and I told you of the Shabbaths, of the lands of Mount Ciynai, and I told you of the Jubilee years in the Shabbaths of years. I told you these things, right? Right? He made them clear to Moshe. These days, these seasons, right? These are the things that separated us as a nation. These things culminated in us atoning, right? Us remembering Pesach, us remembering Sukkot, us remembering tabernacles, the Feast of the New Year, right? I told Moshe of all of these. Because Moshe, he was a priest. He was Levi. See, Aaron, Avraham met with Aaron. Avraham met with Judah and Levi and gave them both specific instructions. Levi has to guard the religious rights, the spiritual rights of the nation. That's what he was supposed to do, right? One of these was to ensure that atonement went forth for his family. Make sure that they recognized and remembered the days, Shabbos, the Shabbat. All these things that Yahuah's given them. And Yahuah's reminding Moshe, recounting from, because it got lost. After the 12 tribes and the leaders of the 12 tribes, sons, they passed on in generations, Joseph died, and there arose a Pharaoh that didn't know Joseph, and then identified children of Yashar'el like that. Pharaoh was getting scared of these people. He's like, look, man, these people multiply like nobody's business. We gotta come up with a plan to bring them into captivity and slavery. Until, we gotta cut the numbers down. We got to put some of these sons that they got to death. So they went to execute them all but Moshe. Firstborn sons. Or those within a certain age group, it's studied. Trying to stop the seed. Yahuah took their firstborn. Of them taking the sons. Here we got this Torah. And then Moshe is now receiving instructions on what is supposed to happen. The sacredness of atonement. Sacredness of peace. And you know, actually in the 49th chapter, I think it's the 49th chapter. Actually the 48th chapter, 49th chapter. You know, I think it's the 48th, 49th. Right? Right up until the 50th. Right? It's reminding Moshe of the feast days. Right? Shabbaths. It's what makes you his own. Right? But listen, we're gonna see something interesting here though. He says, but the years thereof have I not told you, till ye enter into the land which ye are to possess. So I didn't tell you the years. He said, listen, I done told you, excuse me. He says, and after this Torah I made known unto you the days of the Shabbaths, the days in which the Shabbaths would be observed, and the deserts of Sinai which was between Eylim and Ciynai, right? And then I told you the Shabbaths of the land of Mount Ciynai, right? And I told you the jubilee years of the Shabbat of years. So I've told you these things. Jubilee years, Shabbats of years. Right? And because we basically walked it down. Right now, I reminded you of what's supposed to be done. Then he says here, right? He says, but the year thereof have I not told you, till ye enter the land which ye are to possess. Right? And the land also shall guard the Shabbaths while they dwell upon it. So the land is going to observe the Shabbaths while the nation dwells on it. Right? Now listen. And they shall know the jubilee years. They're going to know the jubilee years. Now listen. He says, wherefore I have ordained for you the weeks, the years of the jubilee. Right? There are 49 jubilees, right? From the days of Adam, right, until the day and 1 week and 2 years. It's the time frame, right? In reference to jubilees, right? Jubilee years, right? Now he says, and there are yet 40 years to come. Right? 40 years to come. Now he says here, wherefore I have ordained for you the year weeks and the years of the jubilees. He says there are 49 jubilees from the time of Adam until this day. 49 jubilees. Right? From the days of Adam until now, right? And then he says, right, until this day, and 1 week and 2 years, right? So it's 49 jubilees, one day on this day, 1 week and 2 years, right? And then he says, and there are yet 40 years to come for learning the commandments of Yahuah until they pass over into the land of Canaan, crossing the Yardan on the west. So They're going to cross over Jordan by the west side. Right? He says, and the jubilee shall pass by until Yashar'el is cleansed from all guilt. Listen, and the jubilee shall pass by until Yashar'el is cleansed from all guilt, right, of fornication, right, uncleanness, and pollution, and sin, right, and error, false teaching, right, and dwells with confidence in all the land. Right. So wait a minute. Something's happening, right? The nation is going to lose sight of the feast days. And they're going to lose sight of it because of fornication, because of uncleanness, because of pollution, right? And sin. Sin is a transgression of Torah. Right? Going to transgress Torah, right? And for error, because they're going to teach error. They're going to go off in error. They're going to go off in error. And dwells with confidence in all the land. It's going to happen. To the point where they're dwelling confidence with all the land. Right? He says, and there shall be no more Hasatan. So, these feast days are going to end until Hasatan is removed. Now, until Yahushua gathers his people, we've been in error a long time. We've been in fornication a long time as a people. Listen, that's why we still in captivity. That's why we waking up now. But you have to turn. He gave this to Moshe at the time that he delivered them, after he reintroduced it to Moshe and instructed him in the priesthood and the giving of the Torah and the feast days. And you knew they weren't going to keep them. Yahuah knew that the only time they were going to be kept is after people have received this witness. Because Yahuah has to get the sin out you. He's got to transform the nature. He's got to have his blood, the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach, his son, which is your kinsman redeemer, and he is the Lamb of Yahuah that taketh away the sins of the world. Ye has to have his blood, right, move on your behalf. You have to receive this in Emunah, right? The truth be told, these feast days, these Shabbaths, they ain't going to be accurate until Yahushua comes. He says here, and the jubilee shall pass by, right? Until Yashar'el is cleansed from all guilt and fornication and uncleanness and pollution and sin and error, and dwell with confidence in all the land, and there shall be no more Hasatan. Listen. They were in the land. Hasatan is still the principal of the air. They were in the land. They were still in the land. In error. Right? Because he says here, and the jubilee shall pass by until Yashar'el is cleansed. Yahushua HaMashiach is that which cleanses from all unrighteousness. Yahushua HaMashiach is that which cleanses from all unrighteousness. Right? You have to receive this witness. Right? You have to receive this witness. You have to receive this witness. Right? You have to receive this witness. Right? You have to understand. Right? You have to understand. Right? You have to understand. Right? Yahushua has to reestablish everything under his kingdom. His 1,000-year dominion. He's going to gather us and bring us into the land, those that he has cleansed. See, because he says, Yashar'el. He says, and the jubilee shall pass, verse 4, towards the end, no, verse 5 in the beginning. And the jubilee shall pass by until Yashar'el is cleansed from all guilt. Sin consciousness. And not only, he says, from guilt of fornication. Being cleansed from the guilt of fornication. Right? From uncleanness. Right? And pollution of sin. Of pollution and sin and error. Why is it error? What is the definition of error? Let's look up the word error. What does error in English mean? Right? Error, mistakes, fallacies, misconceptions, delusions, inaccuracies, miscalculations. See, listen. I'm gonna tell you something. You better get this. You better get this. You better get this. You better get this. You better get this witness. You better be born again of the water and the Ruach HaKodesh. You better receive the Ruach HaKodesh, the water and the blood in your body as a witness, because only people that are going in to Yahushua's kingdom is those that are born again of the water and of the Ruach HaKodesh. And these are the people that he is speaking of here, in which Yahuah says that, and he says, sin and error, and dwell with confidence, right? Why? Because they have an emunah in the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach. Because they have emunah in the fact that they have received this atonement, this blood that cleanses them and washes them and purges them. They have this confidence that they have because they know that it's because of Yahushua HaMashiach's witness. They know that because they've received this witness in emunah, they believed, they were sealed, and they received power. They have confidence, right? In all the land. You're going to be in the land. Because you've been born again. And there shall be no more a Satan or an evil one, and the land shall be cleansed from the time forevermore. Yashar'el gave Moshe an understanding of the years and the Feast of Years and the Shabbaths. Right. But you know what? Just like they forgot it after Joseph died, and they totally lost it for almost 200 years. Right? Yahuah brought it back to Moshe and gave it to the people. He knew they were going to lose it again. Yeah, we can identify a new moon. We don't know what Jubilee year it is. We don't even know what Jubilee it is. It's about this witness. It's about this witness. This affirms to me that this is about this witness. See, I understand why Yahuah has had me just cry loud and despair not, and lift up my voice like a trumpet sign and tell you knuckleheads who want to be obstinate that you got to be born again. Because you think you can go about establishing your own righteousness. You don't think you can just start taking, you can just start calculating jubilees. You think you can start calculating jubilees of years. Yeah. You think just because you know the moon and you kind of understand where the first of the month is, right? He says here, and behold, the commandments regarding the Shabbaths, I have written them down for you, and all the judgments of the Torah. Right? Then he goes on to specify. He says, 6 days shall you labor. 6 days. Shall labor. Only those that are under the atonement can keep Shabbat. Only those that are under the atonement can guard Shabbat. See, that's why it ain't just about being Hebrew. It's not just about waking up to your identity. It's about your identity pointing you to the need of restoration, for the sacrifice and an atonement. That's what this is about. Listen, this is so crystal clear to me. You know, this whole heritage, it's crystal clear. It's crystal clear. I understand. This is never about heritage. That's why Yahuah told me, he said, listen, he told me over a year ago, he said, listen, tell these people, it ain't about being a Hebrew, understanding where you are and who you are, and going over to the continent without having his born again experience. It ain't about being Hebrew, right? Knowing who you are and preaching on the corners without being born again. Right? Because you know what? There's error. They on error because of fornication. Listen, do you hear this? He says, all the jubilees shall pass by. Right? They gonna pass us. Yahuah said, I'm gonna take them from you. I'm gonna take your new moons. I'm gonna take your Shabboths. I'm gonna take your Shabbaths. I'm gonna take your feast days. I'm gonna take them all. Take it from you. He said it. Right? And in here, he tells you exactly when he's going to restore them. He says, and the jubilee shall pass by until Yashar'el is cleansed. Until Yashar'el is cleansed. See, that's what makes you the people. Because you are under his atonement. That's what gives the grafted in Gentiles entrance in. Because they've come under the atonement and emunah. Not even having had any of this as a historical fact of life, a covenant, an atonement. They didn't have it. Yahuah gave it to Yaakov. The whole world was in sin. It was all diabolical. Even up until the time of Noah. That albino brother. Listen, the whole world. Yahuah destroyed everything in it. Except Noah and his 3 sons. His sons honored Shabbat. Him and his 3 sons kept atonement. And when it was time to go into the ark, Yahuah closed the door. And when it was time to come out of the ark, he made an altar for an atonement for the sins of the Eretz. But after he died, the sons of his said, "No, we ain't doing this no more." And then he got some of them that ended up coming across and stumbling upon some ancient demonic writings in reference to the stars and the lights and stars and moons and all this stuff that was never supposed to be written or recorded. The Watchers. It's just saying, yeah, we ain't gonna do that no more. We ain't gonna keep atonement. We gonna make our own else. But Yahuah says, no, I got your cove. Oh yeah, Noah, Shem, right? Avraham, out of Shem, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. They practice atonement. 12 tribes, sons, they obeyed their father, and they kept atonement. They kept the feast days. I mean, you know, after Yaakov died, Israel died. And Joseph died. And the sons died. Yahuah told Moshe, listen, and the jubilee shall pass by until Yashar'el is cleansed. See, you are his people when you're cleansed. Now the cleansing he was talking about the consciousness of sin cleansing you. He was talking about the being born again of the water and of the Ruach HaKodesh. He was talking about bringing a people, gathering a people who understands this in Emunah, who recognize that they have to have an atonement. It's not just because they got a genetic marker that indicates that they belong to a group of people. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. You know you're Hebrew, but listen, at the end of the day, the only Hebrews that Yahuah recognized was those that were under his atonement. Only those who are under the atonement. Only those that were under his atonement. So jubilee shall pass by until Yashar'el is cleansed from sin consciousness. Guilt. See, because in Hamashiach, there's therefore now no condemnation to them that are in Yahushua Hamashiach, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Ruach HaKodesh. See, in this witness, there's no condemnation. Because Yahuah's Ruach is established in you. So say it again. He said, because Yahuah's Ruach is established in you, you are free from guilt and sin consciousness. You don't practice sin. And when you do, and if you do, you have an advocate with Abba. But the reason why you do is because you haven't established yourself in your spiritual discipline. When you become spiritually disciplined in the Besorah and the Torah of truth, when you fast and when you pray and when you seek the Most High, when you get up out of that bed at night and you get before Him and you lay before Him and you pray before Him in the Ruach and with your understanding, you look. You ain't gonna sin. But you know there's things that happen in the world, right? There's things that you see and come across. There's things that sometimes catch you a little bit unprepared, and you be like, man, I can't believe I said that. Man, I can't believe I did that. Yahuah, I'm sorry. Forgive me. That's what the atonement is for. That's what Yahushua Mashiach's atonement is for. See, because if that was the case, you would need to be making some sacrifices 24/7. This is what the priest had to do. Make atonement 24/7. Why? Because the consciousness of sin and the guilt of sin was a perpetual thing. It was ever present. Yahuah was never pleased with goats and cows and oxen and none of that. But he made allowances for it to cover the people who would stay true and obey Torah to the best of their ability. See, we have this righteousness that comes in emunah through faith in his atoning blood. You gotta understand the atonement, man. You gotta understand the atonement. See, cause see, you are going to be in the guilt of fornication and uncleanliness and pollution and sin and error. Yeah, you gonna get some error. Oh yeah. You're gonna go back to, you're gonna realize you the people, and then you're gonna go back to Africa, and then you're gonna start looking at the comedics. Or you're gonna get off in the error of the 12 tribe charts. It's error. You said they gonna do it, they gonna error. Yep, you said it. They gonna error. And with confidence in all the land there shall be no more Hasatan or evil ones, and the land shall be cleansed from the fat things that time forevermore. See, because Yahuah's got a land. He's going to bring us into it. And that land is going to be righteous. It's going to be cleansed. It's going to be his kingdom. You ain't going to be able to just come into the kingdom. You ain't going to be able to see it. You ain't going to be able to just enter in. You got to have Yahusha's witness. You got to have the witness of Yahusha Mashiach to enter this kingdom. You got to be born again. You got to have this treasure. You got to be sealed. Are the servants sealed? Are you sealed? He said, listen. And behold, the commandments regarding the Shabbat, I have written them down for you, and all the judgments of the Torah. 6 days shall you labor, but on the 7th day is Shabbat to Yahuah Elohim. And in it ye shall do no manner of work. See, when you know this, right, you don't have a desire to do anything on Shabbat. Not if you're in Yahushua Mashiach. Because Yahushua Mashiach has commanded you to keep the Torah. To keep the commandments. Listen, Yahuah says, in it ye shall do no manner of work, ye and your sons and your manservants and your maidservants, and all your cattle that sojourn also with you. No, even your animals ain't supposed to work. Right? It's supposed to work. He says, and the sojourners also who is with you. Right? So the people that are with you ain't supposed to work on the Shabbat. They're with you. They ain't supposed to work on the Shabbat. Right? He says here, and the man that does any work on it shall die. You know. Right. You don't willfully violate your Sabbath. You don't make a conscious decision to do opposite of what Torah says. Right? See, the Shabbat is a reboot for you. and the day of Yahuah. Right? So he says here, he shall die. Whosoever desecrates that day, whosoever lies with a woman on that day, right? Whosoever lies with a woman, right? And that could be your woman or your wife. But on the Shabbat, you know. Listen, it's one day. You know, right? Whosoever say, woman, or whosoever says he will do something on it, that he will set out on a journey thereon in regards to any buying or selling, whosoever draws water thereon, which had not prepared for himself on the 6th day, whosoever takes up any burdens to carry it out of his tent or out of his house shall die. Why? Because Yahuah said it. It's a no-brainer. Yahuah said not to do it, then you don't do it. You know, that's why, you know, on the Shabbat, man, listen. I basically have my food ready for me, or I have something to eat on it. Most of the time, I may just fast most throughout the day. You know, I may sip on something. You know, I don't. The furthest I go is out the front door, and maybe down to the edge of the road and back. Right. I have to sit on my porch. Well, it's not a porch because it's not enclosed or anything, but it's in front of my house. You got 4 set of chairs out there, and I sit out there. Pour me a glass of wine and listen. Listen to some Hebrew music, right? Because, you know, I done went in on a Shabbat service, right? I done went in on my Shabbat We the People book broadcast. I done served Yahuah, and then you know, I really don't go to sleep, because if I go to sleep, I be up all night just with my clock. So I rest. I don't do nothing. I ain't doing no house chores. I ain't running around picking up stuff and doing a bunch of things. No, I ain't doing that. No, I'm not doing that. He says here, whosoever draws water thereon, which he had not prepared for himself on the 6th day, and whosoever takes up a burden and carries out of his tent or out of his house shall die. Ye shall do no work whatsoever on the Shabbat, save what he has prepared for yourself on the 6th day, so as to eat and drink and rest and guard the Shabbat from all work on that day, and to bless Yahuah Elohim, who has given you a day of feast and a holy day. Day of feast and holy day. A day of feast. So the idea is, it's not to work. Right? Now, if you travel to an assembly to worship and fellowship with Yahuah, right, for the purpose of honoring Yahuah's Shabbat, for the purpose of hearing the Torah read, the Besorah read, right? Yahuah is not against that. It's not work. That's not doing your own pleasure. Though a lot of us love to do that more than they love doing anything else. That's different. That's a Yahuah thing. That's a Yahuah thing. That's a worship magnifying and glorifying the Yahuah together as an assembly. But if you don't have that, and I don't have that, right? You know, I mean, in my area, you know, nobody hardly. So I do what I do on Zoom with the people that want to meet up on the Zoom. We get there. You know, sometimes it's 4, 5, 6. Sometimes it's 2. Right? It don't matter. We fellowship. We go in. We receive a word. Right? And then, of course, after that, you know, I'm going to go in. Because Yahuah's always got a word. Brew, understand this. Right? You got to come under the atonement. You ain't going to keep the Shabbat unless you're under the atonement. You ain't going to truly be able to honor the Shabbat unless you're under the atonement. He says, ye shall do no work whatsoever on the Shabbat, save what ye have prepared for yourself on the 6th day, so as to eat and drink and rest and guard the Shabbat from all work on that day, and to bless Yahuah. And another thing too, you know, right. So, it's the Shabbat. Right? Y'all gathering. Right? Y'all gathering. Right? You want to eat something after the gathering? Everybody had better brought that. That's no excuse for you to go in the back and start cooking for everybody. That's a violation of Torah. Because if you could prepare for yourself the night before, you could prepare for everybody else the night before. See, I'm telling you, man, that's why some of this stuff ain't going until Yahushua come. That's why you got to come through this atonement. Because see, in the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach, you are under the atonement, right? You have the grace of Yahuah if there's error, because you're moving in obedience according to what you know and understand in this witness. See, you don't have that without this witness. See, you got to understand, you got to be born again of the water and the Ruach HaKodesh, right? You have to experience the atonement. You have to have Yahuah come and live on the inside of you, because that's going to justify you. You have now been justified through emunah. You have been made justified. Yahuah is like, okay, I'm satisfied with this right now because of what Yahushua has done, and I will ensure you. Because you're going to forget it. These jubilees are going to pass you. You're going to mess up on the Shabbats. Listen, man, you got people celebrating the feast days at different times. Because they're going to be lost to you, right? They're going to generally be out of sorts. But see, what you got is the atonement. You have Yahushua's atonement. See, Yahushua's atonement trumps everything. Yahushua's atonement, right, for lack of a better word, trumps or satisfies the inaccuracies that exist. Because when Yahushua sees his blood and his atonement, he understands. It's okay. See, but that's why receive this. It's like you just got to be born again, or you ain't gonna see the king. Listen. Where is it at? Where is it at? Where is it? Actually, I can just pull it up. I can just pull it up. I can just pull it up. Let's do this. I mean, we done hit it so many times, but you know, it's okay. Because, you know, faith comes by hearing, hearing by the word of Yahuah, right? All right, Yahushua tells Nicodemus, he says, in Yahuah 3rd chapter, 3rd verse, Yahushua answered and said unto him, I'm telling you the truth. Verily, verily, truthfully, truthfully, I say unto you, except a man or a woman be born again from above. That means to be born from above, right? Right? The way you're born from above is you're cleansed from your sins, and Yahuah gives you life. He puts a new Ruach in you. A Ruach HaKodesh. You become born again. Right? He says here, verily, verily, truly, truly, I say unto you, except a man be born again, listen, he cannot. No, nada, no way. See the kingdom of the Lord. Now see, you ain't gonna even be able to understand this in relationship to the way Yahuah has really sought to establish it, because you got to be born again. You got to jump into this thing in Emunah, and you got to receive Yahushua's blood for an atonement of sins, and then you got to receive the Ruach HaKodesh. Then you understand what the kingdom of heaven looks like. You'll be able to see it. You'll be able to perceive it. You'll be able to physically see it, because, you know, if you're born again, you know, you received the seal, the earnest of your inheritance. You have the seal. You go get an interest into the kingdom. Right. You gonna make it into the kingdom, right? But listen. Except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of heaven. You know, Nicodemus says unto him, well, how can a man be born again when he is old? Can he enter a second time into his mother's womb? Yahushua said unto him, listen, man, verily, verily, truly, truly, I say unto you, except a man be born of water, right? Washed, cleansed, go down, come up, right? Down dead, come back resurrected alive, down and up, right? And washed, right? Ceremonial washing. You can't come to Yahuah unless you wash your nasty body up before you come to the priest and present yourself before Yahuah and you'll sacrifice. Right? He says, listen, except a man be born of the water and of the Ruach HaKodesh. So there's this experience that comes with the Ruach HaKodesh. It's experience of power, right? It's power, right? Ephesians 1 and Ephesians 1, right? Ephesians 1 and 13 first. And then he says, in whom after you trusted, after you heard the word. So you heard the word, right? You're born again. You must be born again of the water and the Ruach HaKodesh. You heard the word of Yahushua HaMashiach, the Torah made flesh, right? Right? You heard the word, the truth, because it's the truth. Yahushua is the way, the truth, and the life, right? It's the good news of Yeshua. What's Yeshua to you? Yeshua to you is that you can be born again and come under an atonement of Yahuah and be his people again. That's your salvation. That's your Yeshua, right? He says, listen, in whom also after you believe. See, you got to have emunah in this thing. Once you got emunah in it, listen, you believed, you're sealed, right? Because, you had to believe in the baptism. You had to believe that you needed to be saved. You had to believe that you had to be washed. You had to go down in the water. You had to come up. You had to go through water baptism. You had to believe that the blood of Yahushua was enough to atone for your sins. He cleansed you from all unrighteousness. He's taken away your sin consciousness. You have to believe this, right? And then you have to receive Yahuwah's Ruach HaKodesh, because when that comes into you, that makes you born again. That seals you. That separates you. That puts in you his power. Now listen, right? He says in verse 19, right? That's the matter of fact. Let's go to 18. The eyes of your understanding being enlightened, that you may know what is the hope of his calling. What is the hope of his calling? His calling is Yeshua. His calling is participation in his kingdom. His calling is you being his. You only have I known. Right? You're the main ones I watch upon my throne. Listen. Right? This is what this is. This is what the whole Besorah is. This is what the Torah is. The Torah is about a people, a history of a people that keep messing up. But Yahuwah is gracious and merciful and has sent them a kinsman redeemer whose name is Yahushua HaMashiach, Yah salvation, right? Yahushua HaMashiach, Yah salvation, the anointed, right? You understand this, you receive this in emunah, and because you do, right, you become his. He says now, right, he says, the eyes of your understanding being enlightened, that you know what is the hope of his calling and what the riches of the glory of his inheritance is in the saints. You got riches and glory and inheritance in the saints, or with the saints, or in the saints. Listen, what is the exceeding greatness of his power to usward, right? It's the same power that came down on Yahushua HaMashiach, but we have it in measure. Yahushua HaMashiach had it without measure. Right? We have it. It's a seal. It is what's going to identify us. It's what's going to cause those angels to pass over us that's bringing destruction. It's going to be that which causes that serpent that latches on to you not to have it hurt you. It's going to be that which causes you to not be killed when somebody gives you something with the intentions of killing you, but because Yahuwah is in you and his Ruach is in you and you're sanctified in him, that ain't going to happen. They're going to sit back and wonder, man, why that man didn't die? Didn't we give him, what you give him? Didn't you give him this? The exceeding greatness of his power to us. Well, listen, you better know this. You better be convinced of this in this hour. You better be born again in the water and the Ruach. You better be convinced of this. You better be established in this. You better be sure in this. Right? Right? This is what we are. This is who we are. We are a people that has been given a Shabbat. A Shabbaths. We've been given feast days and jubilees of which we ain't going to even connect with until he comes back and brings us to the land. It's going to all make sense when Yahushua comes back and establishes this kingdom. Listen, he got to take us out of the lands of our captivity. He said he going to bring us out. He literally got to bring us out of the lands of our captivity. And listen, doesn't mean that if you go over to the continent, right, he won't gather you from there. He'll gather you from there because that's still a captivity land, right? His place is somewhere over there, but you're still in the lands, right? You're just under a different sort of captivity. Over there, you got ancestral ruachs. You got stuff that's just demonic. You got some stuff there that's just not. You got to have a Ruach HaKodesh. That's a beautiful country. I ain't even been there. I know what I see, and I still want to go there. Right? See, I know I got the Ruach HaKodesh. No weapon turned against me going to prosper. I know I'm going to be above and not beneath. I'm going to be over and under. I'm going to be over, not under. I'm going to have everything I need in Yahuwah to get the job done. So here, when you understand what is exceeding greatness of his power to us who believe according to working of the mighty power which he wrought, When he did what? Raise Hamashiach from the dead. When you went down in the water and you came up in the water. When you went down in the water, you came up in the water. You came up unto newness of life. You came up to a newness of life. You had to confess your sins before you went down. You came up having been cleansed in Emunah because you've received the witness of Yahushua Mashiach. Now I can lay hands on you and tell you to receive ye the Ruach HaKodesh. In Emunah, receive the Ruach HaKodesh. Look. And I've done what Yahushua told me to do. Right? That's what you're supposed to do. We've been taking people to the water and let them walk right out. Don't do that. I don't understand it. When Yahushua gave you an example, Yahuwah showed you what Yahushua did. Now, you got Peter, James, and you got John, you got the apostles doing the same thing. But you come from Baptist background. You Baptist preachers. And, preachers. Listen, you got to get this witness. You got to understand this. He says here, that's why he says, and ye shall do no work whatsoever on the Shabbat, right? Save what ye have prepared for yourself on the 6th day, and eat and drink and rest and guard the Shabbat. Because that's what this is about. That's why we are people. We are people that are called by his name. We come under the atonement. We keep the Torah. We keep the Torah. We keep the Torah. Our forefathers had priests that were jacked up. Like priests, like people. Right? The Aaron priesthood. Right? His whole 2 sons got jacked up and did something they weren't supposed to do, and you would kill them. Offering strange fire. Doing something he wasn't supposed to do. And then you got Eli and his sons catching the women coming into the sanctuary and forcing themselves on them to have sex with them. Just like them preachers. Just like the preachers seeking out them silly women laden with sin, coming into their house creeping. Hey, sister, such and such, Yahuwah told me to come on and pray for you. No, the Lord told me. I'm coming over here to pray for you in Jesus' name. Oh, come on in, Pastor. Man. Listen, some of them let you come up in the church. Yes, sister, I need you to come into the office, and I need to counsel with you for a minute. Wicked, diabolical sinners. That's what Phineas was doing. When they weren't in a position to offer up sacrifice. That's why you was going to take it from you. It's going to fade away. I'm going to make a change to the priesthood. I'm going to put my son as a priest. He going to be a high priest forever. After the order of Melchizedek, he going to function as king and priest, right? Because Ephraim, he looked and pulled Judah and Levi aside and started talking to him. Because the nation thrived under the king and the priest. Right? When the king and the priest are wicked. That's why he replaced the priesthood and the king's throne. He replaced them both, right? He said, I got a king and I got a priest forever. After the order of Melchizedek, and when I establish him, I'm going to establish all these days. I'm going to put them all in play. You'll remember. He says this. He says, and that end of that 9th verse, as to eat and drink and rest and guard the Shabbat from all work on that day, and to bless Yahuwah Elohim, who has given you a day of feast and a holy day. Now, feast and a Kodesh day, right? A sanctified day. And a day, the holy kingdom of all Yashar'el is this day among their days forever. Shabbat is in that day forever. Forever. Now you shall have oaths, you know. True Shabbat. See, that's why you gotta be this witness. You know, you got teachings on the Shabbats. Oh, Shabbat's Thursday. No, Shabbat's a Tuesday. No, Shabbat's a Wednesday. No, Shabbat's a Friday sundown, a Saturday sundown. That's why you gotta get in this witness. Yahushua Mashiach is your saving grace. He says, for great is the honor which Yahuah has given to Yashar'el, that they should eat and drink and be satisfied on this feast day, and rest thereupon from all labors which belong to the labors of the children of men, save burning frankincense and bringing oblations and sacrifices before Yahuah for days and for Shabbats. So, you know, you can come and bring oblations. You can come burn incense. You can come and worship Yahuah before Yahuah, right? Yeah, that's not an exempt. That's not something that you can't do, right? He says, this work alone shall be done on the Shabbat in the sanctuary of Yahuah Elohim. So you know where you gather. Where you gather. See, they gathered in the sanctuary. They gathered to hear the Torah read. Right? They gathered to hear the Torah read. Right? He says, and they may atone, that they may atone, they're talking about priests now. Talking about the priest. That they may atone for Yashar'el with sacrifices continually from day to day for a memorial well-pleasing to Yahuah. See, because that kept you under atonement. Shabbaths. Keeping Yahuah's commandments. Being under atonement because the priest was keeping and making sacrifices. He was doing what he was supposed to do daily. That's why it was in the tribe of Levi. They had the responsibility to get 24/7 being prepared and preparing sacrifice. Right? Do you know the demands of that? The demands. I mean, you constantly burning flesh for Yahuah, constantly killing animals, taking the blood and sprinkling it on the altar. You're constantly taking the blood and dipping it and sprinkling it on people. People got to wash. They got to wash their bodies. They got to wash their clothes. They got to wash everything that they have. They got to be cleansed before they come before the priest. This is what they did. This kept us under an atonement. Right? It ain't about being a people. It's about being a people that's under the atonement. Yeah, Yashar'el and Yehuda. Yeah, Yaakov, but Yaakov and Yashar'el and Yehuda under the atonement. And the grafted in Gentiles under the atonement. He says here, and this work alone shall be done on the Shabbat in the sanctuary of Yahuah Elohim, that they may atone for Yashar'el with sacrifices continually day and night for memorial well-pleasing before Yahuah, and that they may receive them always from day to day according as you have been commanded. You know, the instructions that he gave the priest. You know, people got to be able to come before him. And the priest got to be able to receive them. You know. And every man who does any work thereon, or goes on a journey, or tills his farm, or whether his house or any other place, And whosoever lights a fire or rides any beast or travels by ship or sea, and whatsoever strikes or kills anything. You can't even kill nothing on the Shabbat. Right? You know what I mean? You should have no reason to kill anything anyway, right? But you ain't supposed to be killing anything on the Shabbat. You ain't supposed to be shedding blood on Yahuah's day of rest. You don't shed blood, right? I mean, you don't. Right? You don't do that. I mean, we talking about, we talking about the sacrifices that the priests had to do. We just talking about stuff that you mean going hunting. seeing a pheasant or a quail in the backyard, and you decide to take a shot on the Shabbat and kill it. No! It's a violation of Torah. Can't do it. He says, right? And whosoever lights a fire or rides on any beast or travels by ship in the sea, or whosoever strikes or kills anything, or slaughters a beast or a bird, or whatsoever catches an animal or a bird or a fish, whatsoever fasts or makes war on the Shabbat. You can't even make war on the Shabbat. Right? You can't make war on the Shabbat. Like he says, the man who does anything on the Shabbat shall die, so that the children of Yashar'el shall observe the Shabbat according to the commandments regarding the Shabbaths of the lands. And it is written in the tablets which he had given unto my hands, that I should write out for you the Torah of the seasons, and the seasons according to divisions of their days, herewith to complete the account of the division of days. So, Moshe is closing out Jubilees. And Jubilees was about times and seasons and days, and when they were observed, right? From the time of Adam up until his time, right? And they've been recorded and written down, right, in Jubilees. But, we didn't even get Jubilees. We didn't get Jubilees. We don't know what Jubilee year we in. Alright, so he says, yeah, so that's it. So, man of Yah, woman of Yah, the takeaway is, you must be born again in the water of Ruach HaKodesh, the same takeaway every day. Yeah, you must be born again in the water of Ruach HaKodesh. You got to understand that Yahuah has made atonement for you. And atonement is what keeps you. Atonement is what keeps you, even when, and this is the atonement of the witness through faith in Yahushua Mashiach. This ain't you going out and making an altar and making a sacrifice, because you ain't got the qualifications to do that. You can't even do that. Look at Levi, can't even do that now. Yahushua is atoned. I'm telling you, there's a lot of stuff that we got to get in check, even as a nation, on the continent. You got the Igbos. They may sacrifice. They kill goats and animals. They sacrifice them, but they do what they were supposed to do, and take the blood, drain it, but they ain't no altar. They ain't no holies of holies. They ain't. This stuff is going to be put in place when Yahushua returns, establishes his kingdom in the erects, of which I have every intention of being a part of, because I'm born again. Yahuah, in the name of Yahushua Mashiach, the words you've given me, I've given them, and I pray that they would receive this witness in emunah, that they would stagger not at your promises through unbelief, but would be strong in faith, giving glory to you, being fully persuaded that what you have promised you're well able to perform. Yahuah, I pray that every word would be a lamp unto their feet, a light unto their pathway. Yahuah, I pray that you would quicken, make alive in them your word. I pray that if they haven't received the witness, that they would receive the witness, the Ruach HaKodesh, the water and the blood. I pray that they would be born again of the water and of the Ruach HaKodesh. I pray in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. And Yahuah, let the words of my mouth and meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. Yahuah, my strength and my redeemer. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, listen. We're moving into the Shabbat. I praise Yahuah for the Shabbat. I worship Yahuah. I thank him. I thank him. And then I'm obedient to the Shabbat. Thank him. Then I understand what's required and I do it. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, called to greatness. Woman of Yahuah, beautifully and wonderfully made. Listen, Yahuah's favored you. You have a responsibility to walk in this witness in obedience. You have a responsibility to share this witness. Listen to other people. Hey, if you have a difficult time doing it, take my YouTubes and share them with somebody. Look, I got something I need you to hear. Go ahead and take a listen. You can't do it. Let me do it on YouTube. I'm just saying. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, with that I say Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, and be blessed.
Torah Garden, speaking the absolute truth. Torah Nation.